Just 2 more minutes, Renuka. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Ajay, now we can start.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. On the behalf of Rajkumar Keval Ramani Mahavidyalay, Jaripatka, Nagpur, Vasantrao Naik Government Institute of Arts and Social Sciences, Nagpur, Mahila Mahavidyalay, Nandanvan, Nagpur, Aryas Mundle Dharampet Arts and Commerce College, Nagpur, and J.M. Patel College, Bhandara. I welcome you all to this 8th session of online teaching for second semester of BA English Literature. I take this opportunity to introduce today's resource person, Dr. Renuka Rai. She is working as an associate professor of English at S.K. Purwal College, Kamti. She has 14 years of teaching experience at UG and PG level. The topic her PhD was a critical study of women characters in the select novels of V.S. Naipaul. She has published her research work in different reputed national and international journals. Also, she presented her papers at various levels. Her area of interest is feminist study, diasporic literature, and Indo-Caribbean study. Also, she is a soft skill trainer, which is a need of an hour. Also, she plays an important role in various academic and administrative committees in her college. She is continuously working on strengthening the students' language skills, and continuously she is trying to help the students at various levels. Today, Dr. Renuka Rai ma'am, she will be teaching us on the topic Sir Roger at the Club, which is written by Joseph Addison, the man of essay. Renuka ma'am, it's over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. A very warm good afternoon to all the participants. At the outset, let me congratulate all the collaborating colleges for this wonderful endeavor, that is online teaching for semester 2, BA English Literature. I express my gratitude towards the conveners of these sessions, Dr. Urmila Dabir Madam, Principal, Rajkumar Keval Ramani Mahila Mahavidyalaya Nagpur, Dr. Vikas Dhomre, Principal, J.M. Patel, Arts, Commerce and Science College, Bhandara, and Dr. Vandana Bhagdikar, Principal, Mahila Mahavidyalaya, Nandanvan, Nagpur, for giving this wonderful opportunity to me. Special thanks are also due to Dr. Kapil Singhel, Dr. Manish Chakravarti, and Dr. Madhavi Muhuri for their constant support. I congratulate Dr. Karthik Panikar sir for efficient coordination of today's session and Dr. Ajay Devkate sir for conducting the session so ably. The topic which is assigned to me for this session is a famous essay by Joseph Addison, and the title of the essay is Sir Roger at the Club. So allow me to share my screen with student friends. I'm sharing my screen. Sir, is it visible?
Yeah.
Full screen is visible.
Yeah, full screen, full screen. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Before we move on to the essay, Sir Roger at the Club, I wish to acquaint my student friends with different aspects of the literary essays. Since, friends, you are the students of second semester, it is your first year of English literature. I feel it my moral duty to get you acquainted to the fine nuances of literary essays. Literary essays is a different genre that you are being introduced this year. So let us understand what essays are. Yes, Dr. Johnson defines essay as loose sally of mind, an irregular, indigested piece, not a regular and orderly performance. What is loose sally of mind? It is sudden charge from whatever is being there inside the mind of the writer. It is being let loose by the author. Sainsbury, another critic, describes it as a work of prose art. It is Oxford English Dictionary which explains it as a composition of a moderate length on any particular subject or branch of a subject, originally implying want of finish. Originally, it was not finished in form, but now said of a composition more or less elaborate in style, though limited in range. So this composition had very limited range. It was written within very limited period, and the subject matter that it explored was also limited, but the style is very elaborate, and by the end of 18th century it has received great finishing touch by the authors of mastery, authors having mastery over the language. Okay, now let us move on to the types of essays. Hugh Walker, he divides essays into two different classes. One is essays par excellence, another is simple composition. Okay, now there are different literary genius artists who have written essays. For example, Locke essay concerning human understanding. Okay, Alexander Pope's essay on criticism, essay on man, Macaulay's elaborate essays, G.K. Chesterton's brilliant papers, E.V. Lucas's conversational style, all are distinct in themselves and known for their unique style and subject matter. The British educator Hugh Walker, who rightly points out that subject matter of the essay can be anything. Here I have quoted the exact words of the British educator Hugh Walker, who says apparently there is no subject from the star to the dust heap and from the amoeba to man which may not be dealt with in an essay. That means essay can deal with any topic that the essayist prefers to write on. Whereas true essays are usually very personal in nature. It is W.H. Hudson, a famous author and naturalist, who talks about the true characteristic of true essay. He says that a true essay is essentially very personal in nature. Every author has got his own viewpoints that he delineates through his essays. It belongs to the literature of self-expression. Writer expresses his own views, his own thoughts, his own recollections through essays. Treatise and dissertation may be objective. What are treatise? Treatise are kind of report. They are the government documents, and dissertations, they are the documents that are submitted in the support of some degree. हम कोई डिग्री लेते हैं, like we are taking doctoral degree, we are taking MPhil degree. At that time, we are expected to support some documents, some report. They are called as dissertation. Treatise and dissertation may be objective. They are very objective. They are written from an objective point of view. The author of treatise and dissertation is not involved. He doesn't write his personal experience or personal opinion. He never puts into his treatise and dissertation, whereas essay is highly subjective in nature. Okay, so each literary essayist have their individual accent that we wish to hear. So every literary essayist, like we have seen earlier, that E.V. Lucas has his own point of view. Alexander Pope may be very didactic, and Joseph Addison is very light-hearted. At the same time, his writing is highly erudite. Jonathan Swift has got warmth, Jonathan Swift is very satiric, and Richard Steele has got his warm and personal style in his essay. So each and every writer has got their individual accent that the reader also wish to hear. When a reader approaches the essay by a particular writer, for example, if I take up essay by R.L. Stevenson, I wish to read about something very optimistic. I want to have a very brighter, I want to have experience of brighter side of life, looking at the brighter side of the life, because R.L. Stevenson is a very optimistic essayist. Even when we have no particular sympathy for the opinion expressed, the reader might not be having that kind of sympathy, having that kind of what we can say, similar kind of opinion with the writer. But when we pick up the work by any particular essayist, we know what kind of essay this writer writes. There are peculiarities, there are individual traits present in the works of all these literary masters of essays. Now, let us move on to periodical essay, because the essays by Joseph Addison, they come under the category of periodical essay. Richard Steele and Joseph Addison, these two authors are the pioneer members who have started this beautiful literary type, that is periodical essays. So let us learn about periodical essay. Periodical essays and novels are two important gifts of 18th century to the English literature. The latter, that means the novel, was destined to have a long and variegated career over the centuries. But the former, that is periodical essay, was fated to be born with 18th century and to die with it. That means periodical essays, it has started in the early part of the 18th century, around 1711 or 12. It has started in Germany and it ended with the century. This shows that how it is the true mirror of that age. A.R. Humphrey, another critic, observes in this connection. He writes, if any literary form is the particular creation and a particular mirror of the Augustan age in England, or Augustan age is 18th century, it is periodical essay. Generally speaking, it is very difficult to date precisely the appearance of any literary genre. For example, nobody can say with perfect certainty as to when the first novel or the first comedy or the first short story come to be written in England or elsewhere in the world. And we often talk of father of English literature, father of literature. For example, we say that Fielding is the father of English novel, Chaucer is father of English poetry, and so on and so forth. But that is done, but more often than it is a loose and very unprecise sense. We are not sure who is the first writer of novel, who is the first writer of certain poetry. But this difficulty in dating the genre, however, does not arise in case of periodical essay. The periodical essay literally invented by Richard Steele on April 12, 1709. Okay, it was Richard Steele who started writing periodical essay, and the day he launched his periodical, the name of his periodical was The Tatler. Before Tatler, there had been periodical. Now there will be a question among the students. Were there any essays written, literary essays written before the Tatler appeared? Yes, there were literary essays written. There were journals and periodical before the Tatler appeared, but these two things blended together in the hands of Richard Steele. So before Tatler, there had been periodical, there had been essays, but there had been no periodical essays. That means this Richard Steele, he started writing essays periodically in these weeklies, in these journals. The example of Tatler was followed by a large number of writers of 18th century till its very end. With the change of sensibility, periodical essay disappeared along with the numerous other accompaniment of the age. Throughout the century, there was a deluge of periodical essay. What is deluge? Flood. Flood of periodical essay. Periodical essays remain the most popular, if not dominant literary form. Men from different literary tests like Pope, Jonathan Swift, Dr. Johnson, Oliver Goldsmith found periodical essays eligible medium to express themselves. As a matter of fact, it was unlike the novel, for example, only literary form which was patronized without exception by all major writers of the century. So all the major writers of the century, they tried their hand in writing periodical essays. It was hard to name a single first-rate writer of the century who did not write something for the periodical paper. And because of this, one famous critic, Mrs. Jane H. Hack, she rightly points out that from days of Queen Anne, who had the Spectator taken in with her breakfast, to the time of French Revolution and even beyond, periodical essays on the line laid down by Steele and Edison flooded the country, met the eye in every bookseller's shop and coffee house. So let us move ahead with other details about the periodical essays. what is called periodical essays, and it was first written by Richard Steele, and the name of that periodical was the Tatler. Tatler started in 1709, and first definition of periodical essay was attempted by George Sherburn in A Literary History of England, which Albert C. Baugh. He says a rigorous definition of this particular 18th century type of publication is not very helpful. The periodical essay has been amply described as dealing with the morals and the manners, but it might in fact deal with anything that pleased its author. So periodical essays, the aim of the essay was to deal with the morals and the manners of the people. It talked about the people, if there are any follies, if their manners, it dealt with about the current fashion of that time. It covered not more than 2 sides in 2 columns of a folio half sheet. Normally it was shorter than that. So newspaper having 2 columns, it covered only 2 columns of a folio, and it might be published independent of this material. So it is not necessary that these essays will be published only in the periodical. It can get published in the newspapers also. Now, why these periodical essays written by these famous writers that you could see on this slide, like Daniel Defoe's Review, Richard Steele's Tatler, Joseph Addison and Steele, both they started contributing in The Spectator, which has got enormous success. Jonathan Swift was a pamphleteer, and Dr. Johnson, he wrote Rambler and The Idler, and Oliver Goldsmith, he wrote Citizen of the World, a series of letters on English life by an imaginary Chinese visitor. Why all these periodical essays and all these literary masters, they tried their hand at these essays? What is the reason behind its popularity? Let us get into it, and we'll find that there are a number of reasons. First reason is that this literary type was in perfect harmony with the spirit of the age. Now let us see what are the spirit or the exact nuances, characteristic of the age. That this age, 18th century, has seen the phenomenal spurt in the literacy among the middle class gentry. Okay, wide circle of readers, they have come up. And this periodical essay, being the light literature, it became favorite among everyone. These periodical essays have the common sense, and it has a tendency to dilute morality and philosophy for popular consumption. So these are the qualities. So even if they teach some moral values, even if some philosophy is being communicated, it is in diluted form. It was a light literature, and to great extent, periodical essayists assumed the office of clergyman and taught the masses the lesson of elegance and refinement. Periodical paper became particularly welcome because they were not dry, they were not highbrow or hoity-toity affairs like some professional sermon, but they communicated with the readers with an utmost buttonholing familiarity. So what is that buttonholing familiarity? So it is not some sermonizing from the cloud, some what we can say clergyman giving some moral precept. So it was familiar talk between the writer and the reader, which made this periodical essay so familiar, so popular among the readers. It talked about the common, what we can say, class, rising upper middle class, and especially the taste of the female class were catered to through this periodical essay. So this females' views, their likings, their choices were given preference to, and that won them many of the female readers. So these are some of the reasons why periodical essays become so famous. So let us move ahead with the Spectator Club. Now, Spectator Club started far later than by these two writers, Richard Steele and Joseph Edison. It was Richard Steele who began Tatler, and he started pouring out a deluge of periodical essays. The first issue of Tatler appeared on April 12, 1709. The general purpose of this paper was to expose false art of life, pulling off the disguise of cunning, vanity, affectation, and recommend a general simplicity in our dress, our discourse, and our behavior. So the aim of Tetler was very simple. They want to give a kind of moral precept to the readers. They want that people should follow very genuine and very real kind of life, and they should refrain themselves from living a life of cunningness, vanity, false show. Affectation is false show, and live and dress up simply. So this was the intention of Tatler. All the material of the Tatler was purported by the Steele to be based upon the discussion in the famous coffee houses. So from where these materials being procured? So there were famous coffee houses in those days in London, about which some other experts will talk in the following sessions. I'll not dwell deeper into that topic. There were some famous coffee houses. 18th century is also known as coffee house culture. It was also known as age of prose and reason. And in these coffee houses, in these clubs, gentries from different walks of life, they used to come, and they have fair discussions. And from those discussions, this material used to be derived. Steele got his material from such discussions in the coffee houses. Chief importance of the Tatler lies in its social and moral criticism, which has a tangibly salubrious effect on the time. So people in those times took Tatler very well. These writings, they provide a kind of healthy effect on the people of that era. Now, suddenly Richard Steele stopped publishing Tatlers, and then they started publishing the Spectator. Without any warning to the reader, Steele suddenly wound up the Tatler on January 2nd, 1711. But 2 months later, on March 1st, 1711, Spectator began its memorable journey of 555 numbers to December 6, 1712. Whereas Tatler had appeared only 3 times a week, Spectator appeared daily, excepting Sunday. So the new paper became tremendously popular among the English men and women belonging to all walks of life. The best of all the periodical essays, it is important that human document concerning morals and manners, thoughts and ideas of English society of the age of Queen Anne. Edison's fame rests on the Spectator. Okay, so Spectator intended to enliven morality with wit and to temper the wit with morality. So they wanted to have the morality among the people, but it was not serious sermonizing. It was in light-hearted manner they tried to communicate to the reader, and to temper the wit with morality. If there is some overdoing of wit, people are getting some very relaxed and very casual in their approach, then it has to be tempered with morality. And it also intended to bring the philosophy out of the closets libraries, schools and colleges, and to dwell in clubs, assemblies, at tea table and coffee houses. So these serious discussions, philosophical and moral issues were being discussed in libraries, in the tea table, in the coffee houses, in the clubs, in the assemblies, etc. And general purpose of the stele was to recommend truth, innocent, honor, and virtue as the chief ornament of life. Spectator was a particular happy feature of Spectator was its envisagement of a club consisting of representatives from different walks of life. For this purpose, in this particular periodical, Steele and Edison, they have created a fictitious club, and the name of the club was Spectator Club. Okay, and in that club, they have introduced people from different walks of life. Men from different walks of life, they were the member of the Spectator Club. Among them was Sir Roger de Coverley. He was an eccentric but thoroughly lovable Tory baronet and is one of the immortal creation of literature. We will read about Roger de Coverley in detail in further slides. Spectator drew a long female readership, as many of the papers have been about the women. Both Edison and Steele were Whigs. But in Spectator, there was a neutral political pulse. So they did not handle any political issues. They did not dealt with any controversial political matter in the Spectator Club, and they kept a kind of neutral attitude so long as political matters are concerned. But at the same time, they pointed out the errors of political fanaticism, both of the Tories and Whigs. These are the two political parties at the time of Queen Anne, Augustan age. That also will be discussed in some other sessions by other experts. I'll not get into it deeper. Spectator, it showed the interest in trade and consequently endeared itself to the upcoming trading community, which has its representative in the Spectator Club. The rich member, Sir Andrew Freeport, is from Reach Trading Community in the Spectator Club. Spectator Club में अलग-अलग आप देखोगे, we will see that there are many members, there are many fictitious members who are representative of certain community. वो कुछ ना कुछ social community के representative है. Sir Andrew Freeport is a representative of trading community, which was coming up rapidly during 18th century. However, much of the charm of Spectator lay in its style of humor, irony, elegant and polish. So humor and irony is elegant and polished. The chief importance of Spectator for the modern reader lies in its humor. So A.H. Humphrey, once again, he remarks about the famous essays by Edison and Steele, that Spectator papers are important much more historically than aesthetically. They are important historically as well as they are important aesthetically, because the style of the author, both Richard Steele and Edison, about which we will talk in the coming slides, that are tinged with humor and irony, they are very beautiful. We have already talked about this. Now, yes, promoting the ideal of polite sociability. Spectator was a collaborative effort of both Joseph Edison and Richard Steele. Steele's friendly tone was a perfect balance and support for more dispassionate and erudite style of Edison. Whereas Steele was very friendly in his style, that I had already discussed. Edison was very erudite and learned, and his style had got some poise and gravity. They lifted serious discussion from the realm of religion and political partisanship and made it instead a normal pastime of the leisured class. So, some of the issues that those were not that grave to be persecuted in the court, and that were not that serious to be taken to the pulpit and to be discussed or sermonized by the clergymen. These issues were being dealt with by Edison and Steele in these Spectator Club essays. Spectator established the work for periodical and ensured that new kind of prose writing, however entertaining, should be essentially serious. So, although it has got humor as its characteristic feature, but at the same time, these essays were highly serious so far as their subject matters are concerned. So now let us move ahead about the character of Sir Roger de Coverley that we will deal with, because the title of our essay is Sir Roger at the Club. Sir Roger is a fictitious character, and he is a joint creation of Steele and Edison, figuring in both the Tatler and the Spectator. He is a lively sketch of a country gentleman of the time of Queen Anne, as imagined by Edison. Sir Roger was a baronet of Worcestershire and was meant to represent a typical landed countryman. In the Coverley essays, Sir Roger has been characterized vividly by Joseph Edison and Richard Steele. Sir Roger is presented in these essays as a kind, generous, and lovable, and sometimes as a peculiar person. But in the hands of Joseph Edison, Sir Roger's character is conveyed ironically. For that reason, he sometimes seems odd. Although he is gentle and mild, lovable to people, he has some eccentricities and oddities in his nature. All these things are delineated superbly in this essay that we will study. These things, like Sir Roger is a man of humanity. He has a very large heart. Moreover, he is mild. He is loved not only by his servants of his house, but also by the people who live around him. In the essay Sir Roger at the Church, we see that he is asking about the condition of the people who are absent in the church. This shows that he is a very kind-hearted gentleman. At home, he is loved by his servant who are living with him and are growing older with him like family members. Now let us study about the other members in the Spectator Club. Apart from Sir Roger de Coverley, Spectator Club has some other members. These members are the members of upper class English society. They are having different political views and different social interests. Steele writes about, apart from Roger de Coverley, Steele writes about another bachelor, a member of Inner Temple, who is a man of great principle and wit, who studies the stage, the classical philosopher, and he represents those in the upper class who do not understand the matter of law or economics, but still they are very well read. So he is Mr. Templar, who is the unknown, what we can say, member of Spectator Club. The next member is Sir Andrew Freeport. He is a successful businessman from London, and he is well versed in economic matters and he has made his fortune himself. Because of his self-made success, he believes that England may be richer than other kingdom by as plain methods as he himself is richer than other men. He represents those in the upper class who felt that England's power had come to industry and not arms. The readers learn about Captain Sentry, a brave military captain. Captain Sentry is someone who does not hold back at expressing his view about what makes a military man. So he is very proud to be a military man He firmly believes that men can only be in military if they get over all the false modesty. So he believes in straightforwardness, because holding back out of modesty is cowardice. If you hold back yourself out of modesty, it is cowardice in his opinion. He represents idealized upper class military man whose bravery and commitment to his duty have made him successful and strong. He is a brave, committed military man of middle class of 18th century society. After Captain Sentry, we still writes about Will Honeycomb. He is an old socialite who has always had easy access to money. He spent most of his time with women and engaged in what is considered as women's interest like fashion and gossip. Despite his age, he always seems to be the life of the party, who can liven up any conversation. Where women are not concerned, he is an honest, he still writes. With irony, he writes, where women are not concerned, he is an honest man. Honeycomb represents those in the upper class who were not concerned with serious business matters like Freeport, but rather focused on their social lives. So he believes, or he deals with social life. He has got women's interest like fashion and gossip as his prime interest, and he is the another member of Spectator Club. Still writes that there is another who seldom visits because of his poor health, but when he does, he is an enjoyable company. That is clergyman, a philosophic man of good breeding, who always speaks on divine topic with authority. He has lots of followers and positive attitude despite his poor health. This representation depicts English clergyman as an intellectual and caring person. So these are the characters in Spectator Club. And now we will move on to the text that is prescribed in our syllabus. So I hope that you all understood about the characters: Sir Roger de Coverley, Sir Andrew Freeport, Captain Sentry, Will Honeycomb, and the two unnamed people in the Spectator Club, the Templar and the clergyman. Now, let us read the essay in detail, and I'll try to make it simpler for you. See, the essay starts with the club of which I am a member is very luckily composed of such persons as are engaged in different ways of life and deputed as it were out of most conspicuous classes of mankind. So he declares that the club of which I am a member, here the speaker or the narrator is the spectator himself. He says, of which I am the club of which I am a member comprises of people from different walks of life. That we had already discussed. The Spectator is a fictitious club in which members representative from different social and political class are included. So there are fictitious members who represent different social and political class. For example, Captain Sentry is from armed or military forces. Will Honeycomb is a socialite. We find that Andrew Freeport is a rising middle class family. He is a businessman. So we have men who are from different walks of life. By this time, I mean, I'm furnished with the greatest variety of hints and material and know everything that passes in different quarters and divisions, not only of this great city, but of the whole kingdom. So here the spectator says, because of my companion, I am acquainted with what is going on in different parts of the city and at the same time, different parts of the whole kingdom. my readers too have satisfaction to find that there is no rank or degree among them who have not their representative in this club. And there is always somebody present who will take care of their representative interests. So readers are also aware that all the ranks, all the sections of the society have some or the other representative in the spectator club, and their interest, their cause is being taken care of whenever I am commenting, I am writing something in my paper. Nothing may be written or published to the prejudice or infringement of their just rights and privilege. So he says that in my literature, in my essay, I could not mention anything that might infringe, that might limit their right or their privilege. So I have to take care of right of all the people from every walks of life, from every social what we can say sector. I last night sat very late in the company with this select body of friends who entertained me with several remarks, which they and others have made upon this my speculation, as also with the various success which they had met with among their several ranks and degrees of readers. So here, spectator, the character, fictitious character spectator, he gets into the what you can say discussion that last night only we were sitting with other members of the club that I had already discussed. Okay, and when they were talking about my speculation, how I wrote in my essays, so we had a kind of fair discussion. He sets the what we can say thing going. So now the essay starts. Okay, now when Will Honeycomb told me, so this we have already discussed that through this line that there is always somebody present who will take care of the respective interest, and nothing may be written or published to prejudice and to infringe of their just rights and privilege. Here, Addison hints at the righteous approach of the spectator. Will Honeycomb, a socialite member of Spectator Club, he hints. Now, every member have got their own, what we can say, area of liking. So they want to safeguard. They want the spectator not to write anything ill about their own area. Now it is Will Honeycomb who starts. Will Honeycomb told me in the softest manner he could that there are some ladies, but for your comfort, says Will, there are not those of the most wit. They are offended at the liberties I had taken with the opera and puppet show. So this shows that earlier writer has written something about the opera and puppet show, and the way he has dealt with the topic has offended some of the gentle ladies, some of the ladies of higher class. That some of them are likewise very much surprised that I should think such serious points as the dress and equipage of the persons of the quality proper subject for raillery. So he says that these ladies are annoyed with what? That author has dealt with the serious topic, that the ladies thought it serious, like their dress and the equipage that they carry, with lots of raillery. Raillery kya hota hai? It is a good humored teasing. So in his writing, he has humorously talk about the ladies' dressing style, their equipage, how they're fussy over all these elements of beauty and fashion. This had been the topic of earlier essay of the Spectator, and now Will Honeycomb expresses his objection that ladies are not much pleased what you had written. He was going on when Sir Andrew Freeport took him up short. So he was just continuing his views when Andrew Freeport, what we can say here, he's a man from higher middle class society, merchant society, and he took up the cause, and he told him that the papers he hinted at had done great good in the city, and that all their wives and daughters were the better for them, and further added that the whole city thought themselves very much obliged to me for declaring my generous intention to scourge vice and follies as they appear in a multitude without condescending to a publisher of particular intrigue and cuckoldom. Okay, so he says, so these lines, they declare the aim of these essays, periodical essays. See, intention to scourge vice and follies. It is Andrew Freeport who supports Spectator for writing about the follies or about the false affectation among the fashionable ladies of those time. He says that you are pointing out about the affectation, about the fashion, about the what we can say, all those vices in the ladies who attend the opera and puppet show with their dresses and their fashionable equipages is right. It has done great good to our wives and daughters. And he says that it makes your intention clear, that intention of the Spectator papers are to scourge vices and follies as they appear in multitude, large number of people, without having an intention to condescending is patronizing any kind of publisher who has intrigue or cuckoldom as his characteristic nature. Intrigue hota hai secret scheming. Cuckoldom is a term used for a person whose wife is immoral, whose wife is infidel. In short, says Sir Andrew, if you avoid that foolish beaten road of falling upon the elderman and citizen, and employ your pen upon the vanity and luxury of courts, your paper must needs be of general use. So he gives his own bit of suggestion. He says that if you just curtail yourself from writing about the people of high rank in the municipal council of London, that is aldermen or some citizens, if you do not write about them only, about the people of high rank and high stature in London, and if you employ your pen on the vanities, false show, and luxury of the court, people in the court of Queen Anne, how they are having that life of vain and what can you showy life, if you write about them, your paper must needs be of some great general use. So here Freeport want Spectator to write about the court of Queen Anne. Okay. Upon this, my friend, the Templar told Sir Andrew that he wanted to hear a man of his sense talk after that manner. So the Templar, who is a member of inner court, so in a temple, he objects. He says, how can you talk in this way? The city has always been the province for satire, and that the wits of King Charles' time jested upon nothing else during his whole reign. He then showed by the example of Horace, Juvenal, Boileau, and the best writers of every age that the follies of the stage and the court had never been accounted too sacred for ridicule, how great soever the person might be that patronized them. So here we'll get the idea about the court of King Charles. In the court of King Charles, the writers like Horace, Juvenal, and others, they have made wonderful satires on the follies of the people in the court. And whosoever may be the patron, however great he may be, any follies or any what we can say foibles of these patrons were not left unnoticed by these great writers. So he said that Hamesha in all the times in the court of King Charles, satire has been the dominant literary form. People have written satire. Okay, they have not left the follies of anyone. Let it go unnoticed. But after all, says he, I think your raillery has made it too great an excursion in attacking several persons of the Inns of Court. I do not believe you can show me any precedent for your behavior in that particular. So, Sir Templar is annoyed now with the spectator. He says that you have taken much more liberty with the inn of the court. Inn of the court क्या होता है? Inns of the court is the professional association of the barristers in London. Okay, in England, the barristers have that professional association there. They have a kind of club. Okay, so now in some paper or the other, the spectator has talked about the inns of the court, and he has taken some more relaxation or liberty in chastising their folly. Okay, so he says, but after all, I think you are raillery. Raillery is once again light-hearted teasing, has made a great excursion. It has gone beyond its limit in attacking the several persons in inns of the court. So I believe that you should now curtail yourself from making such direct attacks. Now, my good friend, Sir Roger de Coverley, who had said nothing all this while, began his speech with a pish and told us that he wondered to see so many men of sense so very serious upon fooleries. So he says, so many men of sense, they are getting so serious about small things, about such foolish matter. Let our good friend, he says he, attack everyone that deserves it. So he shows himself very liberal at the beginning. He says, let our good friend Sir Roger, the spectator, attack everyone who deserves it. I would only advise you, Mr. Spectator, applying himself to me, to take care how you meddle with country squires. So he wants to safeguard his quarter of society, that is man of higher standing in rural estate. Squires are who? Sir Roger de Coverley himself is a man of highest standing in rural. He is a baronet, and he is what you can say. He is a very high class gentleman in rural areas who has got house in city as well as in the countryside. So he takes the cause of the squires, that is people of high standing in rural areas, rural estate. They are the ornaments of English nation. He says that these squires are the ornaments. They are the jewels of the English nation, men of good heads and sound bodies. And let me tell you, some of them take ill of you that you mention the fox hunters with so little interest. So maybe this hints at that this country squires may be going for fox huntings for sport, for fun. So he says that they may be taking it very for not very happily that you mention the fox hunters with lesser dignity and with lesser respect. Captain Sentry spoke very sparingly on this occasion. What he said was only to recommend my prudence in not touching upon the army and advised me to continue to act discreetly in that point. So now the Captain Sentry, he is a man from armed forces. He is a man, retired army officer, and he has great respect for people from armed forces. He says he is a man of few words. He talks very sparingly, means rarely he speaks. On this occasion, what he said was only to commend my prudence in not touching upon the army. He says you should have prudence, you should have sound mind not to touch the army, and advise me to continue to act discreetly in that point. He says that you should act discreetly. You should. Excuse me. Now, Captain Sentry, and you should be very prudent while acting upon it. By this time, I found every subject of my speculation was taken away from me by one or the other of the club. Now, every member of the club, they have picked up every subject. Will Honeycomb wants the spectator not to talk about the ladies and their fashion and their equipages. Andrew Freeport, he wants them to write about the court, not about the upper middle class, merchant class. Captain Sentry wants spectator not to not to meddle with the army class. Sir Roger Discovery wants him to be respectful about the country squares. So all the topics have been taken up by somebody or the somebody or the other of the spectator club. By this time, I found every subject of my speculation was taken away from me by one or the other of the club, and began to think myself in the condition of a good man. Now he, what we can say, make a kind of comparison, humorous comparison between himself, the spectator himself, and between a man having two wives, one having aversion for his black hair and other having aversion for his white hair. So had one wife who took a dislike to his gray hairs and another to his black, till by their picking out that each of them had an aversion to, they left his head altogether bald and naked. So they have picked up all his hair, and now this man is bald. In a similar way, now no topic is left with me. According to Spectator, he says, all my fellow men, they have objection with whatever topic I deal with. So now I do not have anything to talk about. While I was thus musing with myself, my worthy friend, the clergyman, who very luckily for me was at club that night, undertook my cause. So by that time the clergyman he came, he undertook the spectator's clause. He told us that he wondered any order of persons themselves too considerable to be advised. So he says that anyone, he may be of very high stature, very high rank, but anyone can be advised. And he should be advised if he is going wrong. It was not quality, but innocence which exempted men from reproof. So reproof is a reprimand, is a kind of expression of disapproval. So it is not his quality, it is not his stature, it is not his social standing that exempts a man from reproof, but he's innocent. If he's innocent, then only we can pardon him. This vice and folly ought to be attacked wherever they could be met with, and especially when they are placed in high and conspicuous station of life. So follies has to be attacked. If they are met in some very high station, in very high offices, if we could find that people are acting with some kind of mistakes, we must attack them. He further added that my paper would only serve to aggravate the pain of poverty if it chiefly exposed those who are already depressed, and in some measure turn into ridicule by the meanness of their conditions and circumstances. He says that I should refrain myself. Spectator should refrain himself from attacking the poor class because they are already having very poor circumstances. They are having very bad living condition. So he should refrain from attacking those poor strata of society. He afterwards proceed to take notice of the great use this paper might be to the public by reprehending those vices which are too trivial for the chastisement of law and too fantastic for the cognizance of pulpit. This we had already discussed. What was the subject matter of the periodical essays? The periodical essays dealt with the subject that were so trivial. Those were so trivial for the chastisement of the law. We cannot persecute them in the legal court, and too fantastic for the cognizance of the pulpit. Pulpit means what we can say religious altar, or we can say church, that cannot be dealt with through moral sermons. common follies, general follies, our day-to-day, what we can say, errors, are the topics that are dealt with in periodical essay. He then advised me to prosecute my undertaking with cheerfulness, assured me that whoever might be displeased with me, I should be approved by all those whose presence do honor to the persons on whom they are bestowed. So there are people who may be disapprove of me, but we should be he should be happy with the praises that I receive. The whole club pays a particular deference to the discourse of this gentleman. Now, after this, the entire club, it was happy with the discourse of this gentleman, and they agreed with what this clergyman has said, and are drawn into what he says as much by the candid and ingenious manner with which he deliver himself as by the strength of argument and force of reason which he makes use of. So what are the reason that makes his statement very powerful? His statement is very candid, very sweet, very innocent, and his statement has got strength of argument we have, and at the same time force of reason. There are logic behind his argument, so that became acceptable to everyone. So he says all those follies that are not so fantastic, that are not so what we can say great as to be taken into the cognizance of pulpit, religious what we can say sermonizing, and that are so trivial for the chastisement of law, which cannot be persecuted in the legal court, are the subject matter of this periodical essays, are the subject matter of these spectator essays. So these reason, this judge logic has been accepted by everyone. Now, Will Honeycomb immediately agreed that what he had said was right, that for his part, he would not insist upon the quarter which he had demanded for the ladies. So Will Honeycomb immediately, he is very smart to take what we can say, says that whatever I have said, it is right, but I'll not demand some more liberties for the ladies. Sir Andrew gave up the city with the same frankness, and report also, he said, okay, I am also agreed with whatever has been said. Templar would not stand out, was followed by Roger and the captain, who all agreed that I should be at liberty to carry the war into what corner I pleased, provided I continue to combat with the criminal in a body and to assault the vice without hurting the person. So it was Sir Templar, Roger de Coverley, and Spectator himself. They all agreed that the Spectator should carry out his war against, not against any human being in particular, not against the person, but against the vice in his nature. That should be the what we can say target of his chastisement, target of his essays or his writing. So he should be always writing about the follies, and should be teaching morals and philosophy and standards of behavior to be accepted by the people of that age. So here the essay ends. All the members, they amicably agrees with the views of Spectator. And now we will talk a little bit about the style of Edison and Steele. Edison and Steele did good work in their own way. Edison was much more refined and correct writer than Steele, whom Macaulay aptly calls a scholar among the rakes and a rake among the scholar. So Steele was a little bit liberal and little bit what we can say personal in his writing. Edison's prose in according to Dr. Johnson, was a model of the middle style. Whoever he says that whoever wished to attain English style, familiar but not coarse, elegant but not ostentatious, must give days and nights to the volumes of Edison. So Edison was very elite, very polished. He has got his own poise in his writing, and that could be gathered from this beautiful essay, Sir Roger at the club. I feel that I had done justice and I had tried to give the elaborate, what we can say, clarification to this beautiful essay that has been assigned to me. And now, with these words, I wish to thank the organizers once again for giving this wonderful opportunity to me. And I over to Dr. Panikar. Sir, I wish to thank everyone for this wonderful opportunity, and I feel that I tried to what can I say, bring out all the points, although it was very difficult. Being the first session on periodical essays and the first one to deal with the entire essay, it was very difficult, but I tried to bring out all the points. And now over to you, sir.
Yeah. Ajay, yeah. Renuga, yeah, it was done wonderfully well, and you gave a good grounding about the essay. And I suppose we all have our tasks. Even you have made all our tasks easier for all of us who will be teaching those essays.
Yes.
That would be of great help.
Thank you.
We can directly come to the work now.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Ajay, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Renuga, can you stop sharing the screen
Yeah.
so that we can have the vote of thanks here?
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your wonderful lecture. Teaching essay, and especially Joseph Addison, it is not everyone's cup of tea. And the way you explain it in a simple manner, I assure you it will help the students very much. I thank you again for your kind presence and your wonderful lecture. Also, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Urmila Dabir, Madam, Principal, Dr. Vikas Dhomne, Sir, and Dr. Vandana Bhagdikar, Madam. Also, the organizing committee for providing such a wonderful opportunity for the students. During this pandemic, we are facing so many issues, and students are not able to attend the offline classes. I think this is the wonderful opportunity for the student to access these
Sure.
materials, lectures at their home. Once again, I thank you, madam, and all the organizing committees. Also, special thanks to Dr. Karthik Panikar, sir, for doing all these things for our dear students. Thank you.
Thank you,
Renuka. Yeah. We close it now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes.
Nice lecture.
Thank you.